Shield unearthed the Grendel symbiote dragon, tapping into its dark power to create the Sim Soldier program, a secret super soldier project. With a psychic connection to the Grendel, Knull began trying to take control of its offshoots, which led them to go on wild rampages, driving their hosts to madness. Years later, Knull took control of the symbiote dragon from a distance, breaking it free from containment and reabsorbing 4 of its 5 offshoots. He set the Grendel loose in downtown Manhattan, but it was stopped by Venom, whose symbiote had been affected by Knull's awakening. Knull used the Grendel to form an avatar of his true self and attempted to remove the compassion from Venom's symbiote. His goal was to reconnect it to his Hive-Mind, absorbing it into the Grendel to grow stronger. When Eddie Brock confronted Knull, the villain revealed the true history of the symbiotes and mocked Eddie for believing the lies told to the Venom symbiote by the agents of the cosmos. As the Grendel reformed around them, Knull flew into space with Eddie and Spider-Man, unveiling his plan to gather the missing pieces of the symbiote dragon. His ultimate goal was to use it to free his real body from Klyntar and continue his conquest, beginning with Earth. Venom managed to escape with Spider-Man's help, but Knull chose not to chase them. Instead, he turned his focus to finding the Tyrannosaurus symbiote, one of the last pieces of the Grendel symbiote dragon. When the Tyrannosaurus symbiote bonded with Venom and reconnected to the Hive-Mind, Knull attacked, sending the Grendel symbiote after Venom in an attempt to consume him. As sonic grenades destabilized the Grendel, Knull's form engaged Venom in a fierce one-on-one battle, but Venom's high-tech weapons couldn't match Knull's power. Knull stripped Eddie of both symbiotes and began absorbing them, but his victory was short-lived. Eddie detonated his entire arsenal, the explosion hitting Knull's true body deep inside Klyntar. Shaken and furious, Knull coated his form in the Grendel symbiote and prepared to strike. However, before he could act, the Tyrannosaurus symbiote wrapped around his avatar and dragged it into a blast furnace, telling Venom to hold the door. Knull's avatar was burned alive, and his link to the Grendel symbiote was seemingly severed, leaving his true body sealed deep inside Klyntar. A few months after the battle, an Earth-based cult led by Scorn, devoted to worshipping Knull, obtained a sample of the Grendel symbiote and Cletus Cassidy's dead body. Their goal was to turn Cletus into Knull's avatar and help awaken him. When the Grendel symbiote bonded with Cletus, Knull was revived and communicated psychically with the serial killer, though the details of their conversation remain unknown. When Knull tried to take control of Cletus through the symbiote, Cletus fought back, resisting Knull's power. Their connection was broken when the Grendel symbiote absorbed the codex, remnants of the living abyss left in past symbiote hosts that the Carnage symbiote had left in Scorn's body. Cletus, eager to speak with Knull again, decided to help free him by collecting enough codices to reconnect the Grendel symbiote to the Hive-Mind. As Cletus's link to his self-proclaimed apostle grew stronger, Knull began to awaken. With his influence growing, he sought to corrupt both the symbiotes of Klyntar and those stranded on Earth, including the Riot, Agony, Phage, Lasher, and Scream symbiotes. After Venom killed Dark Carnage and absorbed the Dark Carnage symbiote along with the remaining codices, Knull was reawakened. He immediately destroyed Klyntar, merging its symbiotes into a fleet of symbiote dragons. Dressed in draconic armor, Knull was confronted by Zachdel, a Kree infected with Exelon. Amused at Zachdell's accusation of stealing his soul, Knull explained that the Exelon were imperfect symbiotes and stripped Zachdel of his, absorbing it into his armor before manifesting the Necrosword. Leaving Zachdel to die, Knull continued his cosmic conquest, unaware that his opposite, the God of Light, was hunting him. Knull used his living abyss to consume entire planets and started appearing in Eddie's son, Dylan Brock's nightmares. Dylan, a human symbiote hybrid born from the Venom symbiote, became a focus of Knull's attention. As Knull destroyed the Kree-Skrull Alliance's colonies on his way to Earth, he set traps to capture ships sent to investigate, recruiting several warriors from both species into his army. Driven by a centuries-old grudge, Knull hunted down the Celestials, infecting them with his living abyss. He also sent symbiotes and symbiote dragons to destroy other spacefaring civilizations like the Xenorex. When Knull arrived on Earth, his horde easily tore through the minefield of wrecked Kree and Skrull ships left from their war with the Kotati. As his symbiote dragons stormed the Earth and quickly overpowered the planet's superheroes, Knull emerged from one of the Celestials and declared his plan to destroy the planet. He offered to make it fast and painless if they handed over a human named Brock. The Sentry attacked, attempting to fly Knull into orbit and tear him in half. But Knull broke free easily, reversing their positions. Knull ripped the Sentry apart and took control of the dark entity that had been inside him, absorbing it. Growing bored of the fight, Knull used symbiotes to take control of the Avengers, X-Men, and other heroes who had joined the battle against him. He then encased the Earth in a shell of living abyss. Eddie and Venom were done with hiding. They secured Dylan Brock in a safe place, then made a bold decision. They'd face Knull head-on, ready for the last dance, knowing full well that surrendering themselves wouldn't guarantee Earth's safety. They chose to act. This wasn't about victory. It was about giving Earth's heroes the extra moments they needed. Eddie and Venom were ready to play their part, no matter the cost. In a final attempt, Venom offered to serve Knull if he spared Earth, but Knull rejected the offer. He explained that the Brock he wanted was Dylan and ripped the Venom symbiote off Eddie, tossing him from the top of the Empire State Building. Satisfied that Eddie couldn't interfere anymore, Knull knew Eddie would soon die from his wounds, and his consciousness would become part of the Hive-Mind as a codex. Knull built a spire at the top of the Empire State Building and began leading his invasion on multiple fronts. He controlled symbiote dragons, possessed heroes, and used avatars to carry out his plans. Knull tried to claim the Ebony Blade, Sword of Fu-Shi, and Ghost Spider's artificial symbiote for himself, but he was shocked by the number of heroes who had powers and weapons capable of killing his dragons and damaging or even destroying his avatars. These heroes also had the willpower to resist his control. Determined, Knull reached back through time and resurrected Mr. E, sending him to either destroy the Ebony Blade in the past or use it to escape Klyntar early. But Mr. E failed repeatedly and was eventually destroyed. Knull lost a significant amount of his power when the Valkyries cut off his unwitting connection to the headless Celestial in the afterlife. When Dylan Brock joined the fight and began using his powers to free the people and heroes Knull had enslaved, Knull tried to capture him. However, he was attacked by Thor, who Knull recognized as the one who had nearly killed the Grendel centuries ago. Furious, Knull confronted the God of Thunder, but Thor dismissed him, saying he was just one of many gods of destruction he had defeated. Knull overpowered Thor, but Dylan attacked him. Knull casually subdued the boy, trapping him in living abyss, but was distracted long enough for Thor to strike, knocking Knull off and ripping his lower jaw off with a full-force blow from Mjolnir. Enraged, Knull activated the symbiote-controlled Celestials and ordered them to destroy the planet. But before Thor could leave to stop them, Knull formed a new lower jaw from living abyss, manifested all black from his symbiote armor, and impaled Thor from behind. He mocked Thor, saying he could sense the God of Thunder's familiarity with the Necrosword, revealing he was its creator. Leaving Thor impaled, Knull turned his attention to Dylan, claiming he would make the boy his son and ordering his controlled symbiotes to imprison the ones Dylan and Thor had freed. Unaware to Knull, Eddie Brock was reunited with the codices of Flash Thompson, the anti-Venom symbiote, Rex Strickland, and the Tyrannosaurus symbiote. They used the opportunity of Dylan and Thor hurting Knull to infiltrate the Hive-Mind. When Agent Anti-Venom's codex bonded with a symbiote Knull couldn't control, it was reborn as a white symbiote dragon. Realizing what was happening, Knull furiously hijacked the Tyrannosaurus symbiote and confronted Eddie with the intent to kill him once and for all. However, Eddie managed to escape the Hive-Mind with help from the Venom symbiote and was chosen as the new host for the God of Light. Once again faced with the Silver Surfer,
Knull prepared to continue their ancient battle, but Eddie, now a cosmic version of Venom, interrupted. Knull mocked Eddie's choice of host, unimpressed by the transformation, until Eddie merged Mjolnir and the Silver Surfer's surfboard into a battle axe shaped like Venom's spider emblem. Knull tried to flee, unleashing everything he had at Eddie, but he was overpowered and cornered on top of the Empire State Building. Stripped of his symbiote armor, Knull was thrown to the ground.
Defiantly, Knull told Eddie that his death didn't matter and that the Void's victory was inevitable. Eddie rejected this, taking Knull and flying him into the core of the sun, using the Unipower to destroy his body. Knull attempted to take over Dylan Brock's body, but Eddie, still wielding the Unipower, removed the living abyss from Dylan and obliterated it. It seemed that the Dark God was finally defeated for good.